For about 50% of the experiences we can have as human beings, we have great struggle with acceptance of it. And I'm talking about negative, dark, fearful, torturous emotions. So long as we live in a dimension like this, where there's material and physics dynamics, we will encounter dualities: hot, cold, up, down, yes, no, good, bad. It's fascinating because all types of beings are permitted to exist for a certain amount of time. Really wonderful and really evil, and that too, depending on who you talk to, that definition changes. So there are these, like dualities in let's say, the highest level, heaven and hell, in across these different faiths, right? What those dimensions of the universe would be like. And there's also this idea of dualities with interactions with human beings. And then there's the heaven and hell and the dualities within you. A perspective I'd like to offer: that God typically is considered all-loving. And it's fascinating because, if we're talking about creation and God creating, then so many of these bad things are allowed to exist. So the allowing to exist is not as much of a check mark of, yeah, I morally approve of this being the correct way of being. It's less about that and more about ontological permission for the divine's self-realization in infinite forms. It's like sanity checking, for example. Like when people enter a relationship and everything is really wonderful in the beginning, but they're curious about what their first fight would be like and how they would handle it, and come back to center and what real compatibility is like. How strong is what they've got going on. So how strong your philosophy is or a truth is will be best measured in the toughest circumstances, like evil. Or, it's not enough for you to just believe a car salesman about how something works. You would want to test out the engine yourself in different scenarios to see if it really has that kind of fortitude and tenacity to take you from point A to point B in style, with strength, however you would like it. So rather than thinking this too shall pass, because it will anyways, I wonder if we can shift the perspective and consider, what if this too is divine? I understand that we just need that gentle reminder because, once again, coming back to our first line, we suffer and grapple with 50% of the human experience, which is darkness. We feel that when darkness arrives, it's there to stay. When something wonderful happens, we either, well, it's both and. We kind of don't really want to believe it or let it, that's why a lot of our hearts are hardened. We don't, often you will hear something is too good to be true, because if we allow ourselves to believe in something magical and amazing, then we may get attached to it and it could just go away and be fleeting, and we'll be like, see, there's no such thing as good things, bad things happen. When in actuality, if we would like to remember we are sovereign beings, that would require us to remember we are God. And to remember we are God, behaving as God behaves, where all aspects from the entire spectrum of heaven to hell, being allowed to exist in this cosmic reality, that's on the outside. So what about us being God and the cosmic reality on the inside? So the heaven within is divine, but the hell too is divine. Not because it's something that we ought to or want to stay in, but it all comes from that same oneness. And also the heavenly reality we are looking for, that we are more than capable of achieving in our lifetimes. Knowing that there's no such thing as true 0% and true 100%, do you think you would get 100% of your heaven from out of nowhere, 0%? What do you think happens when we say something like this too is divine? It might, just might, promote us slowing down a little more so that we kind of, enmesh ourselves in that reality, and you can really sensually test out that experience. And in doing so and slowing things down and having that greater awareness rather than dissociation, you might be able to find, even if it's 0.000 infinite many zeros 1% of divinity, that seed and its growth and the focus on it. And I mean this with the nuance of not to ignore the real pain and suffering that you may be going through. That processing is important, but that's not the only thing that's going on as well. There is some glimmer there. Even the idea of something good existing, that's powerful. In fact, if it helps, that's actually a blessing to know that something is bad. In this previous video, I talked about how like reality doesn't pat you on the back for being a better person, because all of reality is just better. So like when you're at that level and everything's at that level, there's not really a comparison. The same actually applies to really dark situations, bro. And I mean this in the sense of like, a lot of people that are in the truest suffering don't actually know they're in suffering. And it sucks because it applies to both polarities, really good and really bad. And if someone's done you dirty and you really want them to suffer, it's like, well, they just don't know it. And if you want them to know it, there's a chance their life will get better, because they're like, oh, I don't want to be here, so what do you want to decide? Once again, this is not meant to be a form of like toxic positivity. It's to remind us of how we can reintegrate back into the power that we house within. We are not like ultimate God of the entire universe. It's a co-creative process with the divine. But it's a consent-based cosmos after all. And sometimes pure awareness of divinity existing, even in the now, is the consent you give to the great cosmic divine force to help cultivate and create that heaven.